Hey yo, what is up? A new tank has dropped in on the Supertest today. This is the Object 590, Object 590. This is a tier 9 Soviet medium tank with a special feature, and that special feature is of course the auto reloading mechanism. Now, as you can see, this tank is not fully textured out yet. It is still very fresh, and what's weird about it is, take a look at the turret. It's got an elongated turret, a bit like the alien head, right? Extended the head at the back. It looks like it becomes a huge target when you're going to shoot it on the sides. If you have a side profile of it, it's going to present itself like a huge turret, right? Elongated turret, and these are the stats. We're going to look at it today, and we're going to compare it with the rest of the tanks in tier 9. My initial response is it is a bit of a KPZ 50 ton and a bit of a M46 pattern in terms of mobility, but we'll go to that in a short while. Let's just take a look at a bit of the artist's impression of the Object 590 right now. As you can see, again, it's not fully textured out, so I don't know why they don't texture this out before they release it into the Supertest. I mean, it's just 2 clicks, right? One click to turn it on, one click to turn it off, and boom, textures. It gives us the impression of, you know, a more polished, finished product. I don't think they've already come this far. Why don't they just put some textures on it before it's done? But anyway, this is a tier 9 premium tank, and well, not premium, I think it's a tier 9 reward tank, which means this thing will be tied to either ranked battles or I presume Battle Pass. That's the only way you can get this tank. Reward tanks anyway in tier 9, right? Like the Kunze-Panzer, the KPZ, the Concept 1B, and tanks of those nature. This tank has 1650 hit points, 800 horsepower, and the reason why I say this is something like Kampfpanzer 50T, the reward tank, a cross between that and an M46 tier 9 pattern, is because of the mobility potential. It's got 800 horsepower. The pattern has similar kind of horsepower. I think the pattern has 820 horsepower, and the weight of the pattern is 43 tons, while the weight on this tank is 40 tons, slightly lighter. The power to weight ratio on this tank is 20 kilometers per ton, or 20 km per ton, while on the pattern is also 20.12. That's why I'm saying the mobility is going to be something across between the Kampfpanzer 50T and the pattern M46. Not super fast, super agile, not as fast and agile as a T54 or a T55, you know, those kind of tanks, although, you know, they have lower horsepower, but they are much lighter, you know, 34-35 ton tanks. This tank is of course 40 tons. The Kampfpanzer 50T is 50 tons, that's why it's called 50T, and the pattern is 43 tons. Kampfpanzer of course has got higher horsepower, 900 horsepower, but the power to weight ratio is actually 18 km per ton. So that's why I'm thinking this tank has the kind of mobility, agility similar to that of the Kampfpanzer or the M46 pattern. So that's where I'm at with the Object 590 at the moment. Again, probably some kind of reward tank. Probably has agility like a Kampfpanzer 50T or a pattern, not like a T54 medium tank, high agility, not as high as a T54. However, you do get top speed of 52 kilometers an hour. Again, not as high as the T54, but you're getting very good mobility, very good agility here. The gun turret rotation is 45 degrees per second. I think 45 degrees per second rotation or gun rotation is pretty good. It's going to rotate the it's going to have hull rotation something like a T-54. It's going to be really agile and nimble. The gun rotation means the turret rotation, right? And the turret rotation is 37.55 degrees per second, which is almost exactly the same as the Kampfpanzer 50T, so that is pretty good. Let's talk a little bit about the armor. The armor, you are looking at armor closer to a pattern. Because if you talk about hull armor, there is no hull armor at all. Hull armor is 75 millimeters in the front and sides, which is pretty low. Something like the hull is something like a standard B. Basically no hull armor at all. You're gonna get penned everywhere. The turret armor, however, is 200 frontally. Now 200 frontally isn't great, but it isn't that bad. 200 frontally is slightly worse than an M46 pattern, but remember this thing has it looks like a T-54 frontally, right? T-54 kind of turret. It has slopes, it has angles. The cupola is kind of tiny and thin, so it's going to be difficult to hit. So you can expect a little bit of bouncy from the turret. That is the impression that I am getting from the turret armor anyway. So 200 is not a lot, not very thick armor, but pretty okay armor from that perspective. You can say it can defend itself a little bit because it has a little bit of that sloped armor. What is special about this tank is, of course, the gun. It has a gun similar to that of a IS-3A, an auto reloading gun that fires 320 alpha damage per shot. It has 3 shells, 3.5 seconds per shell. Now when I say it's an auto reloader, it has an inverted auto reloader, which means the first shell reloads the quickest, the last shell reloads the slowest, not like normal auto reloaders, right? Which means as soon as you reload, you fire, you're not going to lose anything. You don't need to keep your DPM up by saving 2 shells or 1 shell in the clip. You can just keep firing away whenever you're ready, and when you're having a break, it'll reload and have full 3 shells, and you have 3 shells ready to go in 3.5 seconds, which is that intra clip 3.51 seconds. The only downside about this tank is about the gun is its accuracy isn't that good, because it's got 0.40 dispersion. 0.40 dispersion is heavy tank kind of dispersion. Even the pattern or T-54, which isn't that accurate, has 0.37 dispersion. So you're gonna have gun dispersions much like a heavy tank, not like a medium tank, but you can do 320 damage times 3, which is 960 damage if you can wait around for 10.5 seconds to unload your entire clip. So a little bit of give and take with the gun. Also, you have pretty low penetration. Well, when I say pretty low penetration, it's because we're being spoiled for penetration nowadays with all our tier 9 tanks. Standard penetration is 225 penetration, while the premium penetration is 299. 225 penetration is higher than a T-54, but nobody plays T-54 with standard shells anyway, right? They use the premium 330 heat and the pattern as well. Higher penetration than the pattern. Pattern only has 218 standard penetration. Again, not a lot of people shoot standard shells in the pattern because of the low penetration of that gun. So 225, in that sense, it's better than a T54, better than a Patton. But compared to the tanks nowadays, example, the Kampfpanzer 50T has 268 standard penetration. You don't even need to fire premium shells in that tank. So that's the difference. It has 299 premium penetration, which is again compared to a lot of the newer tanks that has 300 plus penetration. 299 doesn't seem a lot, but 299 is plenty for premium shell penetration. But yeah, that's what you get for this tank. It looks like a pretty balanced tank because it is not too overpowered in terms of gun performance compared to its mobility. Mobility is pretty great, but the gun isn't that good with that 0.4 accuracy, aim time 2.88 seconds, gun depression only 5 degrees. You cannot fight on a ridge with this tank. It has gun depression worse than a T54. T54 has 6 degrees of gun depression. This thing only has 5 degrees. Basically, you can only fight in this tank on flat grounds, basically. But the weird thing about this gun, this tank is also it only carries a 3-person crew, making it kind of weird, right? 3-person crew on an auto reloading tank. And also this tank has camouflage values, which is pretty high, 16.53, which means you can get the camouflage values close to or slightly above 30% for a medium tank. That is pretty good in my opinion. That you're talking about camouflage values that is almost similar to the Kampfpanzer 50 ton, which if you didn't know, Kampfpanzer 50 ton has pretty good camouflage values for a tier 9 medium tank. Now again, I'm pretty disappointed that they did not put any textures on this tank, because it looks like it's already finished. Everything is there. They only need to put the skin on it, you know, the quote-unquote skin, the textures on this tank, so to give us a better idea of how it would look like in the flesh. Again, pretty elongated turret, which means if you catch this tank at a distance with its side turret showing, you have a pretty big target to hit, which I think is a good thing, because it means this tank is not going to be overpowered. From what I'm getting, reading all the initial stats that are coming out, obviously it's going to be subject to change, still in super test, very early testing mode, so let's see what happens as the days progress. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you on the next one. Bye bye.